Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Fantasy Football Today. Did you know that a running back has scored double-digit non-PPR fantasy points in 13 of 14 games against Houston? Can anybody name the one lead running back who did not score double-digit fantasy points against Houston?
Jonathan Taylor?
No.
He did twice.
Another rookie.
James Robinson?
Remember he had that dud of a game mid-season? He came back.
No, I don't remember. Every week he crushes.
I remember because Adam was asking if we should drop him or not.
Yeah, probably. You know, like that. He's the only guy who hasn't done it. So Giovanni Bernard faces Houston this week. Maybe he's a tough call. How about this? I got one more running back stat for you. Just need to scroll up a little bit. In their last 5 games, looking at Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon has 5 more carries than Phillip Lindsay. Only 5 more. 185 more rushing yards.
Wow.
Stop splitting the carries. Stop doing it. But they are doing it very, very evenly. And Melvin Gordon has a revenge game against the Chargers, who are bad against the run. Is he a tough call? We'll talk about it today. Good morning, guys. How you feel? I'm in a really fun mood, festive mood right now. Happy holidays. Got my tree yesterday. It's like 2 feet tall. It's like a bush. That's fine. And Heath, I'm in the Christmas spirit.
That is. Do you always put your Christmas tree up this late?
No. It was. We tried to get a delivery. It was a mess.
Okay.
We went to sold out.
I was kind of stunned because we put ours up too early, probably. But I thought, man, that seems like a lot of work to put the tree up for like 3 days.
That was that was a good thing.
No, I'm feeling pretty good. It's an exciting week. I mean, I kind of feel like I might just lose all of my championship matches, but I'm still excited about the possibility of winning.
Yeah, good. You should be. Dave, how you feeling? By the way, there was a Rocky Marathon on last night, so I think that's also why I'm fired up. Dave, what's up?
You got to find you some stairs to run up, apparently. I'm feeling great. I'm also in the Christmas spirit. Last night, my daughter and I went driving around our neighborhood and started grading people's decorations for Christmas. And some people, I'm amazed at how some people just go all out, and they've got the blow up characters. You know, like Snoopy in his house. He's laying on the top of his doghouse, and there's Christmas lights on the doghouse. And there are people with, like, when I was a kid, there were like 2 types of Christmas lights, color or white. And now there's different sizes and shapes and projectors and everything. And, waving Santa Claus is in the yard. Some guy had like every single possible blow up of the Minions that you could possibly have for Christmas in his yard. He had 2 Minions with a sign in between them saying "Ugly Sweater Contest." It's amazing just how people go all out for the holiday, and the Christmas spirit it captures everybody, man. And it was great to go out there and see all the lights and see the festivities.
My neighborhood has a lot of lights. Lots. We walk around the neighborhood.
Does your house have lights, Heath?
I have 0 lights, and my wife is kind of giving me a hard time about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
he won't even turn his porch light on Halloween. You think he's gonna put Christmas lights up?
That's a good point.
True. I made an offer that we could do some holiday decorating this year, but my wife shot it down. We both went to the same church as kids, and we both participated in front of our church. We had a live nativity every year for Christmas. And the kids in the youth group would go like pose out there and stand. And this is in Missouri, so it's like freezing cold. And stand there for hours, sometimes singing.
Oh my gosh.
Posed as the characters from the nativity scene. And so I told my wife that like we can go buy a manger and we can all stand in the front yard and do a live nativity scene. That's the only. She did not want to do that, unfortunately. So no decorations this year.
I would help you set it up if you promised to be baby Jesus.
No, that sounds like a fantasy football losing bet in fantasy football. Dave, since we're in the holiday spirit and we're in the spirit of giving, you give us a lucky player to stash on our bench every year.
Yes, I do.
So if you have some of the history, we'd love that. And who is going to be this year's player?
This all started when I felt like I needed a good luck charm on my bench for a fantasy matchup. It's got to be over 5 years ago. And I picked up Tim Tebow and I put him on my bench. And I think the year before I had won a championship with Tebow as my quarterback. And I remember like writing a whole story about, really, Tim Tebow's going to help you win your fantasy league. And I said, he's going to do it again, but this time it's going to be on your bench. And it's going to be just, the luckiest guy. He's had so much luck in his career. Now he's going to have it for your fantasy team. And it worked. And I won my fantasy league with Tim Tebow on my bench. And I remember like the guy was playing saying, you're such an idiot. Why is Tim Tebow on your bench? And I said, just wait till the games. And I blew him out and it was wonderful. So every year I've picked a player who's not active in the NFL at the current time to come onto my bench. I drop a player who I just know I'm for sure not going to start. And I put this good luck charm. All it is a good luck charm. And now it's kind of exploded into this thing where people are guessing. They want to know who it is. I went on a radio spot in Cleveland yesterday, and the hosts were begging me to announce it then. And I told them, okay, I'll give you guys a guess. And you can each have one guess. And if you get it right, I'll announce it right here, right now, that's it. I had made up my mind on who it was by then. And they couldn't guess. Last year was Rob Gronkowski. And the pick was so good that not only did you win your league if you had Rob Gronkowski on your bench, he came back to play in the NFL. Yeah. He was a guy I didn't make the finals in our Dynasty league, but I stashed him on my bench before the season ended, I believe, because he was on my team this year when the draft came around, and I ended up trading him as part of a package deal. I think that it's silly. It's not going to guarantee you a win in your league, but it's something we can all do together.
All right.
It's just something kind of fun.
Let's do it. Who is it? Wait, do I have a drum roll? I don't have a drum roll.
No. You guys have to each make a guess.
Oh.
And Shraggy B can make a guess too. Think about a player who is, you're going to be able to find him on your waiver wire, who maybe is a good luck charm.
I thought Alex Smith was the most obvious choice.
A lot of people guessed Alex Smith. It's not Alex Smith.
I'm going to go with PJ Walker from the XFL.
PJ Walker is not it, but that is also an excellent guess. And Shraggy, I almost feel like you did that because you know that I was a PJ Walker fan.
Yeah, exactly.
The XFL last year. No, it's not PJ Walker. He's dynamite. Adam, it's on you.
I have absolutely nothing.
Okay, well, let me give you a couple of names who aren't it that were originally going to be it. Saquon Barkley was a former very early first-round pick who tore his ACL. I think if you drafted him and you still made your finals, you should go pick him up and put him on your bench anyway, just so he's there. Dak Prescott suffered a horrific injury. He was playing like a rock star before then. And if you're a Cowboys hater, there's no way you would ever put Dak Prescott on your bench. But if you had Dak, maybe you should go back and put him. By the way, you can create your own good luck charm. You don't have to go with the guy.
No, Dave, this is your freaking. Let's go. Come on. Who is it?
He is a former Olympic track runner.
Marquise Goodwin.
He's got 3 little angels that come with him when he joins you on your bench. And his last name is Goodwin.
Hey,
it is Marquise Goodwin. As the good luck charm this year, I'm going to go add him in my leagues, have him on my bench. And that's just part of the karmic process that I go through. The other one is a little something like this. Hey, Heath.
Yes.
You and I are playing for a championship in one of our leagues. And the difference between the first prize and the second prize is roughly 26 packs of Funky Buddha. Would you like to split the difference and just play for the glory? And then we can each walk away with an extra 6 packs of Funky Buddha. It's okay to say no.
No, it's really not.
Did you see the email of the day, by the way? Let me read the email of the day.
Please
email
do.
Of the day is from Alexander in Massachusetts, Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Wondering if you can talk about pot splitting heading into a final, dynasty or seasonal. Might be an interesting Twitter poll. Been listening for years and cannot recall the subject coming up before.
It has.
A fantasy cops question, more of a fantasy philosopher's question. I'm only giving you 2 minutes to talk about this, as we got more stuff to do. Let's go. So, pot splitting, yay or nay?
I am anti pot splitting shaming.
I am too. That's a perfect
and
way to put it.
It's bad form to turn down pot splitting requests or offers.
I disagree with that.
Because you don't know what's going on in the person you're playing's life. and it might be a $400 pot. And we have some leagues that are winner take it all. And they might be in a situation where $200 makes a big difference to them.
Okay.
Understood.
And when they may be saying they want to split because it would really be helpful to them to guarantee $200 instead of having a chance at having 400 or 0.
Oh, all right. But there are certain circumstances where that's not the case.
No,
That's
I
very
don't.
noble- that's very
Well,
noble
I
of you.
don't really think there probably are some circumstances where that, but the majority of cases, you have no idea what somebody else's financial situation is.
Do
what
you
their real
think that
situation
someone
is.
might actually say, "Hey, Heath, I'm going through some tough times. I could really use the money. Do you mind if we just split
I
the
would
pot?"
not I wouldn't want to. Maybe they would, but if they just presented it as, "What do you think about splitting the pot?" I think the right answer is to say yes.
Okay, but I just presented it to you as we get extra beer. So don't take it as something
I think
where
he has to accept. He absolutely has. Based
well,
on
here's the thing. Here's the other part of the
You have
karma
3
equation
seconds
for
to
me
finish this.
is I always offer when I make the final game, except when I play Jamie, because I know he's going to say no because he hates pot splitting. He is anti-pot splitting to the core. He is a fiend about it. You should ask him about it on tomorrow's podcast. I do it because I just want karma on my side. I just want karma to be with me saying, okay, look, I've got the good luck player. I offered to make it a split with the cash. I clearly just want to have fortune with me to win the league. That's why I do it.
All right. I think pot splitting is fine. It's it's fine.
And I've done it
and
in poker tournaments
It
before
makes
too.
sense. Yeah, but it's not quite as fun. It definitely takes the excitement / anxiety out of the matchup.
I disagree.
What are you talking
Well,
about?
I guess it depends
What
on
the
the
hell
league.
is at stake if you're splitting
Winning
the pot?
league, and in this case, it's our dynasty league. It's
All right,
14 teams. There's some serious props that come with winning league. Not to mention, if I win the league, I beat Jamie and Heath on my way there, and Will Brinson.
I get it,
Oh,
but believe
man,
me,
I coulda
there's less at stake. There's no question. There's less at stake. All right, news and notes.
Yeah, for sure.
News and notes. James Conner could play this week. Mike Tomlin, though, he raved about Benny Snell. So if Conner does play, are they both sits? And if Conner doesn't play, is Benny Snell a start against the Colts?
The only way I'm starting Snell with confidence is if Connor is out.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but Snell is much better than Conner if Conner plays, right? Snell is better. Okay,
Very
Snell without
similar on a
Conner.
lower level to the Pollard situation.
right.
You would rather have Connor and Zeke just not come back unless you have Connor or Zeke and not the other guy. But yeah, they're flex at best if they're both active. And I don't really I've got Snell projected without Connor right now, and he's a borderline number 2. This matchup against the Colts is not near as good as the one against the Bengals, obviously.
Keenan Allen not quite ready to practice. We're gonna have to keep an eye on that one. Ronald Jones is almost certainly not going to play. They got a Saturday game at Detroit, and I didn't put Leonard Fournette in the tough calls, but I think he's a tough call because you could make a case that he should be like top 10 based on the matchup. And he got 17 touches last week, and he's facing Detroit. They're 32nd. I think they give up the most fantasy points, most or second most fantasy points to running backs. So would you guys start Leonard Fournette or Miles Sanders?
Sanders.
I have Leonard Fournette one spot ahead of Miles Sanders.
Wow.
Running back 15. So I would start Leonard Fournette.
The only reason why I'm starting Fournette is the matchup. He looked terrible again last week, but he just rumbled his way in for a couple of goal line touchdowns, and he was awesome for fantasy.
The 49ers news, Nick Mullins out. He might need Tommy John surgery. George Kittle trending in the right direction, might play. Raheem Mostert, Deebo Samuel out. So Jeff Wilson is looking like a good start. Jeff Wilson or Leonard Fournette this week?
Wilson.
Okay. And then how do you feel about Kittle? Where are you going to rank him if he plays at Arizona? It's on Saturday. Arizona has gone from worst to one of the best against tight ends this year. But anyway, where are you going to rank Kittle?
He's going to be in my top 5. I'm not going to mess around and say,
Yeah,
he's not going to be good.
6. Between 3 and 6.
I think he's going to end up being ahead of Logan Thomas, Hunter Henry, Robert Tonyan.
But obviously not Mahomes and Waller, probably not Andrews or Hawkinson.
Mahomes.
Kelsey.
Yeah, might as well call him Mahomes.
Well,
Yeah,
Hawkinson would be interesting, I guess.
I've got Logan Thomas 3 in PPR. I don't know that I think I'd probably have him 6. Probably Kelsey, Waller, Thomas, Hawkinson, Andrews in front of him.
Okay. And is Hawkinson dependent on Stafford playing?
Yeah. No. I'll still start Hawkinson with Chase Daniel.
Oh, I'm talking just specifically versus Kittle.
Yes.
I know he's going to be a start either way, but
Which backup quarterback do I hate less? I think if Kittle is practicing every day this week, I will start him over Hawkinson with Chase Daniel.
Okay. Alex Smith could play this week. Dwayne Haskins could get suspended for having a maskless photo with strippers. And
we've all been there.
Yeah. Strippers I'm around don't wear masks either. But, well, I don't know why I said that. It's a joke that's going nowhere. I have no punchline. Just a horrible comment. Josh Gordon is not eligible to play. That was disappointing. So he's not going to come back this week. Derek Carr has not been ruled out yet. Kyle Rudolph missed practice. They have a Friday game at the Saints. And Eric Ebron avoided serious injury, which is good news. And maybe he can get back in time. It is a tough matchup against the Colts, but he's been pretty reliable. Eric Ebron. Shraggy B, what are we promoting today?
It's a great question. We're promoting No Twitch on Thursday and watch CBS Sports HQ on cbssportshq.com or the CBS Sports app on your OTT devices or your mobile devices.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Here's something surprising. I'm obsessed with pass catching running backs and how you really can't be great if you don't catch 50 passes. You look at it's just there have been, I think in the last 5 years, 2 running backs have finished top 5 in any format with fewer than 50 catches. No, fewer than 49. Sorry. Aaron Jones had 49 last year. They're Derrick
Almost
Henry,
50 catches.
Yeah. Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott. And this year, it looks like it's going to be 4 out of 5, or it's going to be very close. But Derrick Henry will obviously be in that mix, and he will not have 50 catches. It just seems like the pass catching is down. It's just not as big of a factor, I think, for these running backs. There were 13 running backs who caught at least 50 last year. Right now, we're on pace for only 8. However, there are a bunch that are right in the range. So there are currently 13 running backs on pace for 46 catches. But only 2 were on pace for 70. Kamara and McKissick. Last year, we had 6 running backs get to 70 catches. Obviously, you don't have McCaffrey this year. That hurts. But last year, we had Eckler, Tariq Cohen, Leonard Fournette, James White. Injuries have played a role. But I don't know, guys. A little bit surprising. It's kind of a fantasy mantra for me is I just don't like first-round running backs. I'm not taking one unless I feel like he's getting 50 catches. Derrick Henry would have to be an exception.
I think it kind of points to also the fact of why running back has been at the top. Running back has been a major disappointment this year. Last year, we had 5 running backs that scored 300 PPR fantasy points. This year, we're going to have 3. Last year, we had 12 running backs that scored 240 PPR fantasy points. This year, we're probably going to have 6 or 7, like half as many. And there's a lot of things that go into that. Alvin Kamara had the Taysom Hill weird thing, and Saquon Barkley was out, and Ezekiel Elliott fell apart. We've had a little bit of weird committee stuff, but it's like the main takeaway is those catches are kind of a symptom of the fact that running back just hasn't been as good this year.
What if you've got a running back who has an average of 3.2 catches per game? That would come out to 50 or so over a 16-game span. Is that maybe a better barometer, Adam?
I mean, it's the same thing. You look at, so right now you look at the top 5 running backs. They're Kamara. He has 80 catches. So he
only
needs
one more for the rest of the year.
One
He's
more.
only allowed to have 81 catches.
3 straight years with 81. Dalvin Cook has 42. Dalvin Cook has come on strong. He was catching nothing the first half of the year. Derrick Henry has 19. He's not going to get there. James Robinson has 49. He actually might not get there. We don't know if he's going to play. Aaron Jones has 41. That's your top 5. So Jones will be close to 50. But it's just different. You're just not seeing as much pass catching from these running backs. Montgomery has 43. He's RB6 right now. 3. So you want about 3.5 catches. And I still think even in this down year, looks like 4 of the top 5 are going to be very close to 50. It's still a number I'm going to shoot for next year.
It's just also a lot of the guys, we're going to have a lot of guys catch 50 that are kind of weird.
Mike.
JD McKissick's already done it. The Mike Davis situation, Naheem Hines, Chase Edmonds. I mean, James White might get there still.
Yeah, right. Zeke might get these. Zeke's got 45. Yeah. All right. Giovanni Bernard's got a chance. He's got 40 catches. We'll see. Well, that just caught my eye. Something I talk about a lot in the offseason and checking in on it in the late season. We got week 16 tough calls. We're going to take a quick break on fantasy football today. Can you start Matt Ryan? Kansas City has given up 25 or more fantasy points to, I think, 5 of the last 6 quarterbacks they have faced, or 4 of the last 5. I'll update you as soon as 5 of the last 6. There we go. Can Matt Ryan make it 6 out of 7? We'll tell you when we come back. Well, I'm going to suggest a tough call. You guys tell me if it was actually a tough call for you this week. Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson are the 2 quarterbacks I came up with here. Ryan had his first good game without Julio Jones, and it was a tremendous game. 33 points against the Bucs. He threw 49 times, but he throws a lot, basically every game. And now he's at the Chiefs, and to update that stat, 5 of the last 6 quarterbacks they've faced have scored 25 or more fantasy points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. That would be Bridgewater, Carr, Brady, Tua, and Breeze. And then Wilson, I actually don't think Wilson's that tough of a call. I would love to not have to start him. But you tell me, Dave, were Ryan and Wilson tough calls this week?
They were tough to stack up against other quarterbacks who don't have supreme upside. So in that regard, yes. But they both fell outside of my top 12, which is kind of unfortunate, especially in the case of Wilson, because a lot of people made the finals of their fantasy league with him at quarterback. And now he's got this dreadful matchup against the Rams. And you'll want to trust you want to trust Matt Ryan after the game he just had against Tampa Bay. But it was really a tale of 2 halves for him. The first half, the Bucs weren't getting to him. The protection was good, and he was making throws. The second half, the Bucs were getting to him. He was getting sacked on 3rd down. It looked very familiar to Falcons fans, and he wasn't nearly as effective. And so my guess is that that's what Kansas City's going to do, is try and blitz the snot out of Matt Ryan until they've got the game in hand. And you're going to need garbage time for Matt Ryan to come through for a big game. I like him as a top 15 quarterback, and Russ is 13th, but not top 12 for either one.
Yeah, I'm not too far off on either of those guys. I think I've got Russell Wilson 12th. I would definitely start Jalen Hurts over him.
Oh, yeah.
The one that I really struggle with is Trubisky.
Okay.
But I think I'd start Trubisky over him. I'm starting all the guys we've been starting as top 12 quarterbacks over him for the most part. But I wouldn't start Matt Ryan over him.
I've got a championship to say. I made the finals with Russell Wilson as my quarterback, and the best available quarterback on waivers was Baker. So I'm going to have to make a decision of Russell Wilson or Baker Mayfield as my quarterback in the FFT league against Jamie.
Yeah, I think, and Jamie said you guys talked about this on HQ yesterday, and it's a really tough debate, Baker versus Trubisky, because they're both one's facing the Jets, one's facing the Jaguars. Great matchups, but they might not have to throw much. They've been running the ball very successfully, their teams, at least recently for the Bears. And you've got to think they're pretty similar. And Dave's rankings go right now, Trubisky, Wilson, Mayfield in order. And Heath goes Wilson, Trubisky, Mayfield. So yeah, those are the tough calls. Hurts is the easy one. Yes, they're starting him over Wilson. But Trubisky and Mayfield, you guys have them all back to back with Russell Wilson. And that's really interesting. But sell me on why I should go with Russell Wilson. He has not been good lately, and he's facing a team that gives up the fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. And in his last 6 games, he's averaging 6.55 yards per attempt. What is going on? That includes a 4-touchdown game against the Jets. And even with that, he's on pace for 24 touchdowns over 16 games in those 6 games, touchdown passes. So, I don't know why I would go with Russell Wilson over one of those 2 streamers, Heath.
I would say the main point in this, I say this poorly all the time, but fantasy football is not like this linear thing where the things that have happened the last month are guaranteed to continue to trend in that direction. If we've not seen proof of that in 2020, I don't know if anybody will ever believe it. So it's not as if we're talking about a bad fantasy quarterback. He still ranks as one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks on the season. He has been an elite fantasy quarterback throughout his career. Just 2 weeks ago, he scored 30 fantasy points, and he has rushed for at least 40 yards in 4 of his last 6 games. he has 300-yard, 3-touchdown potential against anyone.
That's a really interesting discussion, is how do you look at Russell Wilson's splits, first 8 games versus last 6 games? First 8 games, he was on pace for 5,082 yards and 56 touchdowns. Last 6 games, he's on pace for 3,373 yards. I mean, that's like 1,800 fewer yards. Quick, stupid math, probably like more like 17. And 24 touchdowns compared to 56. So he is throwing fewer passes. He's throwing about 5 fewer passes per game in these last 6 compared to his first 8. But when they've been losing, he has thrown, in the 2 losses, they're 4-2 in these 6 games. He's thrown 37 and 43 passes. So if it's going to be a competitive game, or if they might lose, you might get a good amount of pass attempts. But I mean, I think it's a good philosophical question, is do you look at it as like, well, Wilson's had 5 bad games out of 6, or, well, Wilson's been great for most of the season.
I think he's had 4 bad games out of 6. I think he had 24 points against the Cardinals.
Okay. Yeah, you might be right about that. 23. Yeah. Okay. So 4 out of 6. Yeah. So yeah, do you look at it as a streak, or just like part of a bigger sample, or is it indicative of what we should expect now? You know what I'm saying? Do you look at the full season, or do you look at the last 6 games?
I look at the more recent games, and I look at what has he done in the games that they've won, because that's what the Seahawks care about. They want to just win the game. They want to beat LA.
But don't you have to think about who they're playing? Because this is going to be a tough game. This is not
okay. So, and what we saw when they took on LA earlier this year was that Russ was sensitive about throwing in Jalen Ramsey's direction, and he didn't do it a lot, and he was lousy. And if you go back to their game late last year against LA, same thing. He was lousy, and they had Ramsey and Donald. I'm pretty sure they had both those guys on the field for the game. And I think he gets a little nervous when he plays against one of those big time corners. And I also think that Pete Carroll and the Seahawks just have it in their mind that their defense is good right now. Their run game is effective. They've got enough bodies at running back to roll through and to keep a good run game going. Now, that being said, Russ had a touchdown called back last week, or the receiver was ruled out of bounds. Carlos Hyde broke off a 50-yard run. If he doesn't break off a 50-yard run, which he almost never does that, how would that drive have ended? Would have been a touchdown for Russ. So he came kind of close, and he's therefore being given opportunities to have a good game. I'm not sure what the odds are of him having a great game, especially against a defense that he struggled against the last 2 times he played, and a defense that's done mostly a great job over the balance of the season against quarterbacks.
Yeah, first in points allowed. All right, let's get a couple of running backs here. Melvin Gordon, revenge game at the Chargers.
I mean, I almost think I laid out a case to start Mayfield over Russ.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, because if you're looking at these 6 games as part of the full season sample for both quarterbacks, I think it's much more difficult to make that case than if you're looking at, well, look what Russell Wilson's been lately. Look what Baker Mayfield's been lately. Right. I generally lean towards the larger sample size, unless there is some major change that has occurred in conjunction with like
an injury.
Ryan and Julio Jones.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And you, in addition to that battle of recency bias or whatnot, you also have the matchup thing, whereas, Wilson's got the Rams, and Mayfield and Trubisky have 2 of the worst teams against quarterbacks. So,
and it's not that I'm not taking, like, the fact that they are even close signifies that I'm taking both of those things seriously, because for most of this season and their careers, there's been 20 spots between Russell Wilson and Baker Mayfield in the rankings.
Right.
It's true.
Makes sense. All right, so let's go to Melvin Gordon and Giovanni Bernard. So Gordon is at the Chargers, and he has been getting 11 to 15 carries in each of his last 5 games, and he's been pretty good. He had a bad game against the Saints, which, is not unexpected. But other than that, he's been, pretty good, and he's got 7 catches in his last 2 games. The catches have been very unpredictable. Phillip Lindsay has 11 to 16 carries in 4 of those 5 games. And like I said, over the last 5 games, they have almost the same amount of carries, but Gordon has been so much better. But it's frustrating. And how about this? Their pass attempts the last 5 games, no more than 30 in any game. They are just run right now, those Denver Broncos. So is Melvin Gordon a tough call? And Giovanni Bernard against arguably the best matchup. I'd say Houston and Detroit are the best matchups, with Green Bay just behind them. Heath, are Gio and Melvin Gordon tough calls for you, and how do you feel about them?
They are individually tough calls. It's not a particularly tough call for me to start Melvin over Gio. And this is one of those situations with the recency, like Drew Lock and the Broncos coaching staff have talked about how they didn't want him to be quite so YOLO. And so he has, I think, intentionally not thrown the ball downfield as much and been more willing to take the short passes. So I do feel a little bit like the catches have been random, but I do feel a little bit better about Gordon's role in the passing game currently. Gio, it's just so tough because it was really like it's one good game in the last month. And again, the larger sample size, it's probably now 11 out of 16 or something that he's been good without Joe Mixon. But 4 of his last 5 were absolutely terrible. I like Gio as a high-end flex. I like Melvin as a number 2 running back, but they are not that far apart.
Gio is the tougher call.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
What does that mean for Gordon? Like, is he an easy start or sit? Or
He's
what?
an easy number 2 running back to start this week.
But
you should have the confidence to go with him.
But
It's just,
would you start him over Fournette?
I'm not sure if I would do that because
Jeff
Fournette's
Wilson?
matchup is just so good. Same thing.
Ahmed?
Same thing.
Like Daryl Henderson? Like, I think he is a tough call because he's right in the range of all 5 of the, except for Pollard, all of the waiver wire running backs.
Yeah. I've got Fournette ahead of him. In PPR, I've got Le'Veon ahead of him. I have Wilson 1 spot behind him. I also have Kenyon Drake behind him. There's something that's making me nervous about Drake. We'll talk about that later.
And, Gio, at least. So if I'm going to make the case for Gio, it's that when he was in that awful stretch of games, look at the matchups: Pittsburgh, Washington, Giants, Dolphins. Dolphins have had a better run defense lately.
Sure.
Pittsburgh, Washington, and the Giants, very good. Then he had the Dallas game, and he only got 6 touches because he fumbled. So that was obviously a huge disappointment. It's not like he was so great against Pittsburgh the second time around. 25 carries for 83 yards, but he scored twice. You're not going to see him get 26 touches, most likely. So I don't know if you get 16 touches or so against Houston, is that enough for a good game? It has been for almost every running back this year. So yeah, I don't know.
It's easier to start him now than it was a week ago this time. No one was starting him against the Steelers.
You didn't know if he was going to get the work.
Right, but now at least we know that, or at least we think we know that.
Oh, and how about this? Last week was an exception. Week 15 was an exception. But going into week 15, a running back had 28 or more receiving yards against Houston in 9 straight games. And in 8 of those 9 games, it was 35 or more receiving yards. So not only do they suck against running backs on the ground, they give up among the most receiving yards to running backs. They are giving up 5.41 yards per carry to running backs. That's the most in the NFL. That's Houston. Number 2 is Dallas, 4.9. That's a half a yard more per carry than any other team. It's unbelievable how bad their run defense is. All right, said my piece. Do a few wide receivers here.
You should also consider who they've played over the last 3 weeks. That's caused that to explode.
You're right. They have faced a lot of good running backs. All right, let's do some wide receivers here. I have Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, Marquise Brown, and Cole Beasley. Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, Marquise Brown, and Cole Beasley. I have them as tough calls. Godwin has Detroit. Cooks has Cincinnati. Marquise Brown, the Giants. And James Bradbury will play. And Cole Beasley is at New England, and John Brown could play. So, Heath, again, I'll give you the first word. Are these guys tough calls? Godwin, Cooks, Marquise Brown, Cole Beasley.
You did an excellent job of choosing wide receiver tough calls.
Thank you.
Chris Godwin is going to haunt my dreams until his game begins, because obviously there's the name, there's the reputation, and he has had some good games of late, not many, but he's the number 33 wide receiver in PPR since Antonio Brown joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In 2 games since their bye, he has received 12% of the targets from Tom Brady. It's a good matchup. He could score. I don't feel comfortable with him, and I have to make a decision between like him and Robbie Anderson and Jamison Crowder, and I'm really not certain.
I would be 100% certain.
Well, on who?
Godwin, hands down.
Based on what?
Based on the matchup and based on the potential for the Bucs to score a touchdown on every single drive that they have in this game against the Lions. Detroit's defense is miserable.
Yeah, really.
That was my capital M noise.
And
They cannot get pressure on the quarterback. They can't stop the run very well either, but Fournette isn't exactly a fleet of foot guy at this point. Sometimes it looks like he's running with his eyes closed, but Brady should have a very good game. And so his receivers are of interest to me.
Brady's had some very good games.
And Godwin's just been okay. I get it. No, he's a number 2 receiver, but I feel more comfortable with him than certainly Robbie and Crowder.
Okay. And then what about the other 3? Cooks against Cincinnati, Marquise Brown against the Giants, Cole Beasley at New England. Dave, do you feel confident in them? Are they tough calls?
Marquise Brown's been the same guy every single week for me, which is, you know what his upside is, you know what his downside is. The nice thing is that he's shown you the upside 4 straight games. He's scored or had 98 yards. So I'm fine starting Marquise Brown. I think Lamar Jackson's playing well enough to where he's good as at worst a number 3 receiver or a flex. PPR or not PPR. He's had some good games. Cooks worries me because he hasn't had that big game since Fuller's been suspended. He's had some okay games. He got hurt. And Deshaun Watson is finding other guys to throw to and making good use of Kiki QT, Chad Hansen, Jordan Akins. The running backs, David Johnson had a ton of catches last week. So I'm more concerned about Cooks. I've got him as a low-end number 3 receiver.
Yeah, I would. Of this list, Cooks is probably first for me. Beasley's right in that same range. If there's no John Brown, Beasley becomes a very difficult choice if there is John Brown. But yeah, I mean, I think it's not really that bad that Cooks has scored 11 PPR points in each of his last 2 games and each of his last 5 games, at least, actually, without scoring a touchdown.
Right.
That's good, but that's like, it kind of lets you know
what his floor is.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know if the ceiling of getting to 17 or 18 PPR points is.
Well, he's literally been 1 touchdown away from that 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Well, so where's the touchdowns been? Where have the touchdowns been, I should say?
And again, just to go back to it, I don't think not scoring a touchdown for 4 straight weeks makes him less likely to score a touchdown this week.
No, sure. But okay, how many end zone targets has he had? How many red zone targets has he had? That's something that I don't know off the top of my head. He might have 8. And I just, he's been unlucky and that'll reverse course. And Cincinnati's as good a matchup as any to make that happen with.
The thing is, Cincinnati, let me tell you the amount of points their defense has allowed in their last 5 games. 20, 19, 19, 23, and 17. The 23 was against Dallas. Dallas actually scored 30, but they had a defensive touchdown. They also had a lot of short fields in that game. Now, they haven't faced the best teams. Washington, Giants, Dolphins, Cowboys, Steelers. Not exactly the best offenses. Watson should do much better than those quarterbacks, but got to give them credit. Their defense actually played a lot better their last 5 games, and they're 1-5, but 1-4. But only one game giving up more than 20 points in that stretch, and it was the Dallas game where they just kept fumbling and turning the ball over. All right, and that will do it for the tough call.
Hold on. Let me just give you one last thing on Brandon Cooks. He has 7 red zone targets on the season. That's it. The season. And since the Will Fuller suspension, I believe he's only had 2 red zone targets.
In 2
against
games.
The Patriots.
2 games or 3?
I think it's 3.
He missed.
Patriots were 4 games ago.
He's played 3 games, I think, without Fuller, or 2. Well,
Was
I know
Fuller
he
there for the Patriots or not?
Yes, Fuller was there. They both
so
had
then he's had
PPR.
0, none, since the Will Fuller suspension.
All right, guys. So we've got some great stats for this week. You might be thinking, there's no way I'm starting Kirk Cousins. Well, listen to what Jacob Gibbs is about to tell you about Kirk Cousins this week. Actually, he's got and Matt Ryan, and he's got some good stuff. So let's take a listen to our buddy Jacob Gibbs from Sportsline as he gives you some key stats for Fantasy Week 16.
What's up, FFT? This is Sportsline Fantasy Analyst Jacob Gibbs, and I'm back with 3 more advanced stats for you heading into Week 16. Stat number 1. Only one quarterback has a passer rating above 120 when facing man coverage. That quarterback is Kirk Cousins, whose passer rating versus man sits at a nearly perfect 141.6. This isn't a small sample size thing either. If we include last year's numbers, Cousins' rating is 136, his completion rate is 71%, and he's averaging even 10 yards per attempt. He's been by far the NFL's best passer versus man coverage. In Week 16, Cousins will face a Saints defense that uses man coverage at the NFL's 7th highest rate. The receiver set to benefit most from New Orleans' man-heavy scheme, without a doubt, is Justin Jefferson. In the 3 games since Adam Thielen returned to the lineup, Jefferson has out-targeted him 31-18 and has 336 air yards to Thielen's 172. He's operating as the team's clear wide receiver 1, and on top of that, Jefferson has been uncoverable in man-to-man situations. His 4.96 yards per route run versus man is the only mark in the league above 4, and his target per route run rate is up from 19% against zone to 31% against man. The Vikings will likely have to lean pass-heavy as 7-point underdogs in this game, and it really wouldn't be a surprise to see 150-plus yards from Jefferson in the Superdome. Stat number 2. Matt Ryan and the Falcons have been really letting it fly lately, which has resulted in back-to-back weeks of 200-plus air yards and double-digit targets for Calvin Ridley. The player I really want to talk about, though, is Russell Gage. You probably think of Gage as just a slot receiver because that's the role he's played for the entirety of his career up until Week 14. Over the past 2 weeks, though, only 27% of Gage's snaps have come from the slot. Now that he's not relegated to only 3 wide receiver sets, Gage is able to remain on the field in all situations, which is evidenced by his season-high 91% snap rate last week. The move to the perimeter has led to more downfield targets, too. Gage's average depth of target prior to Week 14 was 8 yards. He then had a 12.6-yard ADOT in Week 14 and a 13.1-yard ADOT in Week 15. This brings us to the matchup against Kansas City. Matt Ryan has thrown at least 10 yards downfield on 37% of his passes this season, which trails only Deshaun Watson. We've seen him funnel these types of targets to really engage with great success lately, but he might not be able to find such success against the Chiefs. Not only does Kansas City use a lot of man coverage schemes, which Ryan struggles with, but they have allowed a league-low 38% completion rate on passes of 10 or more air yards. The way the Falcons have used Ridley engaged in recent weeks provides both with exciting ceilings and a projected shootout against the Chiefs, but Kansas City's success against the pass this season, specifically on downfield attempts, does make the Atlanta passing game boom-bust options in this spot. And stat number 3. Green Bay's shutdown corner Jair Alexander hasn't been used in shadow coverage since his Week 10 injury. 94% of his snaps have come lined up on the right wide receiver since then. This is important because the Titans are one of the few teams who don't move their receivers around much. A.J. Brown is lined up as the left wide receiver on 62% of his snaps, which is the 3rd highest mark in the NFL. Corey Davis lines up on the right side of the 2nd highest rate in the NFL. This predictable alignment from Tennessee means we can feel confident Davis will spend most of his time on Jair's side, while A.J. Brown will spend most of his time against Kevin King on the left side of the field. That's great news for Brown, as King is one of just 13 qualified corners with a PFF coverage grade below 50. This game carries the highest over-under in Week 16, and both Titan receivers are still top 25 fantasy options in the projected shootout. Just know that the volume could swing back towards AJB and away from Corey Davis with how Green Bay has been aligning their cornerbacks lately. All right, that's all I've got for Week 16. I'll be back on the FFT in 5 episodes Saturday with 3 more stats, and you can find me on Twitter at jgibbs_23. I'll be tweeting out nerdy stats all week long.
All right, Jacob Gibbs, thank you very much. And he's got great stuff on Sportsline. Go check out sportsline.com and subscribe. Very, very affordable and useful stuff. And I think Corey Davis versus Jair Alexander is the most interesting thing to me. Packers pretty good against wide receivers, but Kevin King has been struggling, as Jacob Gibbs just told you. But Heath, are you gonna be concerned about that matchup if Davis stays in his spot and Alexander stays in his spot and they see a lot of each other?
I don't like it. You didn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy, Jacob. So thanks for that. But I think what he said is correct. Like it's still the highest projected over under.
Fun game, a lot of touchdowns. You want to get pieces of that. It's not going to be all Derrick Henry. So Davis is someone I think is a good start too. I really enjoyed Jacob's stats on Justin Jefferson because he quantified so much of what I've seen from Jefferson and Thielen in just a bunch of stats. And there's no doubt, like, I think people should be a little nervous about Adam Thielen. I think you start him with low-end number 2 receiver expectations this week. Jefferson's the number 1, and he's going to end up being probably a top 35 pick in fantasy drafts next year.
I've got a terribly tough decision if Ezekiel Elliott's status is up in the air, because I have Adam Thielen that I'm planning on playing on Friday. But it would mean either sitting one of Swift, Taylor, or Pollard to play Thielen.
Oh, goodness. Well, hopefully we'll get the practice report from the Cowboys before kickoff of that game on Friday, and you'll know if Zeke's even practicing.
Swift has got to be a tough call too. against the Bucks. But
His target volume makes him less of a tough call.
all right. Well, I got to play one pre-recorded thing. Now here's another. Oh yeah, it's Fantasy Caps time. Here we go.
Definitely not Christmas music.
No. This is from a manager in a league with a weak commissioner. We have a payment dispute that we need your help with, and the league has agreed that your ruling will be final. This is a hometown friends league that has been 5 years running and is mostly centered around competitive banter. In years past, we have collected money before the draft to avoid the exact scenario we are in now, but we did not this season. There is a debate as to why. Those out of the playoffs argue that we decided not to pay at all due to COVID uncertainty. And those in the championship are saying that we decided to wait until the end to pay this year due to COVID, but that payments were still going to be collected. With no text or email trail and no one truly remembering without a biased opinion based on their payoff status or playoff status. I don't know what it says payoff. Maybe it should be playoff. We are stuck. Should we punt on payment this year since we didn't pay before the draft as usual? Still pay since we have every year before? Or strike some sort of compromise like 25% of the usual buy-in of $100? And Heath, kicking people out next year who don't pay isn't really an option, as it would likely end the league or not be enforced as everyone is too stubborn. Am I missing something here? This is the easiest. This is such an easy call.
What is it?
Pay. You got to this point. The season went through. Pay. Why on earth would you not pay?
I didn't know if the COVID uncertainty was referencing whether they would play or economic uncertainty.
Okay, right. I'm sorry. I've interpreted it as the season might not finish. That's why we didn't pay because of COVID. If people lost their job, can't afford it, okay, that's a completely different scenario. If financials are in order and that's not an issue, you absolutely pay. There's no reason not to pay.
When's the last time you played in a fantasy league where you weren't sure what the buy-in was? You never once went to the commissioner and said, hey, what's the buy-in for this? I'm bewildered.
No, I do have a lot of
bewildered by this. Where you don't, not the timing of the payment, the amount in which you pay.
But I do have several leagues where I'm currently not sure whether I have paid or not.
That's whether or not you have paid is one thing.
Like
whether or not you
people
have
could really
to pay
make me
is
over the
another.
coals by getting me to pay twice. Probably.
I know. Yeah. That's why you got to keep better track of your finances, Mr. Cummings. But you know that those leagues have buy-ins, yes?
Yeah.
How many leagues are you in where you're not sure if your league has a buy-in?
I'm sorry to rush you. We have like 3 segments left, so I do apologize. But am I wrong here? This is an easy call, right? Everybody should pay.
Here's what I think they should do.
As long as they can afford it.
Everybody, assuming you can afford it, everybody pays 100. 50 of it goes toward next year's buy-in, and you have 100 as the buy-in next year, and you play for a bigger pot next year, and you take 50 to pay this year's buy-in.
I don't understand that discount at all. This season went off.
It's not a discount. Everybody's still paying.
The people who won this year deserve that full prize.
The people who won this year should know whether or not the league had a buy-in or not.
Adam,
and then
the one thing I would say
it.
is you could make, like, people did decide before the season, we're not playing for money this year because of COVID uncertainty.
100%.
Yes, we are finishing the season, but we shouldn't act as if the uncertainty hasn't wildly affected fantasy football and cost teams victories almost every week.
I don't think that matters. If you didn't pay at the beginning of the year because of COVID uncertainty, I interpret that as we don't know if the season is going to be played or finished. Since it has been played or finished and everybody had their chance and everybody had to deal with the same crap, you pay. The people in the finals deserve it. I think you pay up. All right, so that I've said
but
my
they
piece.
didn't even know how much to.
I'm going to mostly side with Adam.
I'm sure if they
Every
knew
single
if they
year it's $100 league. Every single year, that's the expectation. You should know it. These are all friends. Like, it's a 5-year league that's been $100 buy-in every year. Okay, so I said my piece. Heath, your final verdict is what?
If you can pay, you should pay. But that's
$100.
going to lead to like half the league not paying.
We all agree that everybody should pay the $100 buy-in.
Okay.
It's just a matter of how it should be doled out that separates us.
This is from Ben. Is it customary to tip a league commissioner if you win? I have been a commissioner for 5 years and have never been tipped. I'm about to place in a different big money league and the commissioner asked for his tip via PayPal. What? I'll leave it up to the fantasy cops if this guy gets tipped. No, Jamie is in this league. CBS's own Jamie Eisenberg, and I am playing him in the championship. My team is Curb Your Ben Enthusiasm. Should have come up with Jamie. And yeah, this is a guy named Ben. All
But
right.
Jamie's not the commissioner, is he?
I don't think. I hope not. That's a bad.
Oh my God, yeah.
What do you think, Dave? Should Ben have to tip his commissioner?
I think you should absolutely tip him. Find the coupons from your local paper, or maybe a piece of paper on the street, and give him the coupons and say thanks for being a great commissioner. It's a thankless job. It sucks being a commissioner, and if someone wants to tip their commissioner, they should choose to do so. This isn't like going out to dinner, or getting somebody to come clean out the puke and blood out of your Las Vegas hotel room. You don't have to tip here.
Yeah, you definitely don't have to tip. Heath, were you unanimous?
You don't have to tip. No,
You also shouldn't ask for a tip if you're a commissioner. That's
You
cheap.
you shouldn't ask for a tip either.
If you think he deserves it, then fine.
Who, Jamie?
Give a little bit of a tip and good luck. I am rooting for Jamie, Ben. I'm sorry to say. I'm rooting for Jamie. But
No, I'm
good luck.
Team Ben. Come on.
Oh, no surprise. No surprise.
I'm going to root for Jamie too, because I want him to win at least one league, but not the league that I'm playing him in.
All right, those are your fantasy cop questions. Thanks a lot. We do have a mailbag on Saturday, so more opportunities to have them read. Quick Apple Podcast review questions from Mark Quinn 7. This is my first time on the championship game. Help me out. It's a non-PPR league. I'm starting Kamara and Montgomery. Who should I start at flex? Kareem Hunt, J.K. Dobbins, and he says Cam Akers. Akers is not going to play. So Hunt or Dobbins?
Dobbins. Heath wants to say Hunt.
I
You
think
do,
I have
don't
Hunt.
you?
I have in full PPR. I have Hunt ranked higher, so I think I'd start Hunt.
It's non-PPR, though.
Non PPR, I'd start Dobbins.
There it
There you
is.
From Derrick Henry. Interesting. Full PPR, pick a flex. Chris Godwin, Wayne Gallman. I don't really get to do it anymore because, he's kind of fading. I guess.
Yeah, you could do the Gallman thing for who ruined your fantasy playoffs. You got to the playoffs.
Oh, that's great. All right. So Godwin, Gallman, Drake, Hilton, or Zeke. Pick one.
It's T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, Hilton.
And from BD 531, Corey Davis or Robbie Anderson.
Ooh, if it's non-PPR, it's Davis easily. It's going to be Davis either way, but it's much closer in PPR.
Davis.
All right. Let me get a few emails up, and then we're going to finish with some Dynasty wide receiver talk.
Heath, did you have an answer for me on this offer?
Yeah, let's chop it up.
Okay,
Oh, pot split.
it's done.
Yep. This is from Jason in a small Western Massachusetts town.
See, now the problem is Heath's got karma on his side because he accepted the offer.
But you offered it too, so that gives you good
Yeah,
karma.
but he's the one that hit the button on, and he said yes. So
All right. All right.
now I
so
gotta think of something else.
And I
to get
am
karma on my
an
side.
18-point favorite, so it's lots of
Wow.
karma.
Yeah,
All right, Jason needs help. Jason needs a quarterback. He didn't give me his quarterbacks. Okay, he needs two running backs. Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb. I'm only going to read these first three. Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, David Montgomery.
he's got to sit one of them.
Uh-huh.
Is it PPR?
Yes.
I would
Chubb.
sit Nick Chubb.
All right, now pick two wide receivers. Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, Chris Godwin, and Brandon Ayuk.
Diggs and
Diggs and
Ayuk.
Ayuk.
Now pick a flex. Chubb, Dobbins,
Chubb.
David Johnson, Keenan
Chubb.
Allen,
Chubb.
Chubb.
and Chris Godwin over Keenan Allen.
Yes.
All
We
right.
don't know if
Yeah.
Keenan Allen's even going to play.
Yeah, I know that, but if he plays, all right, thank you for the question.
We don't know
Here's-
how much he'll play if he plays.
Here's Greg. I need a wide receiver 3 and a flex. It's half PPR. All right, Leonard Fournette and J.D. McKissick are the running backs. Wide receivers are Aguilar, Crowder, Rashard Higgins, Lazard, and QT. Who's the wide receiver going to be? Aguilar, Crowder, Rashard Higgins, Lazard, QT.
I think I have QT ranked the highest.
Aguilar.
And then who's the flex? Those wide
Big Aguilar
receivers are Fournette or McKissick.
McKissick. Assuming Gibson's out.
Half PPR over Fournette.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Dave?
Um,
I have McKissick over Fournette too.
Yep.
one thing that I like about McKissick over the last couple of weeks is that he's running the ball well.
Yeah.
And he's getting opportunities to run the ball. He's actually like not a receiver playing running back. He's a running back playing running back.
What happens at the goal line?
That's true. It's
Peyton
Peyton
Barber.
the Beefcake Barber time.
Maybe. I mean, he's averaging like 5 yards a carry. Maybe he'll just run one in from not on the goal line. Maybe
So-
he won't
He'll
get
be
tackled to
cutting and
one.
strutting his way into the end zone.
All right, let's finish the show with some dynasty wide receiver talk. Very interested to hear who's rising and who's falling at wide receiver. And Heath, I assumed you were going to move Nelson Aguilar down. I saw he was 13th in your rankings, so I was like, that's probably just how the project.
Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.